Chapter 7. Julie typed away for what seemed like hours. She felt no hunger, no exhaustion, no sadness. She felt nothing at all. She just typed. The numbness had overtaken her almost as soon as she had started work on what had now become nothing short of a diatribe. Her anger at every aspect of her situation, her husband's lack of interest in her, her daughter's lack of attention, her career's abrupt ending, her changing body, the current political landscape, the fumbling of her opportunity to make new friends at this hotel, all was swirling around in her heart and her head. Since I made this decision, I don't feel the sadness and emptiness anymore. I'm angry, yet relieved that I've finally come to this conclusion. There isn't any need to beat myself up over any of it anymore. I find it funny that nobody in my life even noticed that I've been so unhappy. Neither of the kids, not you, Morty, none of my friends, not even any of my former colleagues have even bothered to invite me to lunch for weeks. Julie had flopped back on the pillows. She noticed that her knees were achy and her lower back was twitching. This prompted her to look at her watch. It was almost 1. If those bitches were going to come back for me for lunch, I would have heard from them by now. Trying to remember where she left the room service menu, Julie saved the last of her work. Her note had gotten up to over 20 pages. She slowly got up from the bed and meandered over to the desk, thinking that the housekeeping lady would have put the menu away since everything else had been straightened up. It was indeed sitting on top of the pile of welcome folders and hotel brochures. She sat down at the desk and scanned the menu. Nothing was jumping out at her. She was startled by the shrill ring of the phone. The red light was blinking, but it was not in sync with the sound of the rings. Julie got up and walked over, wondering why she even noticed something like that, and further, why that was so annoying to her. She picked up the receiver and answered it abruptly. Yes? Whoa! Who peed in your Fruit Loops? The voice on the other end of the line was the sing-song twang of Rachel Goldstein. Are you going to be able to get away to go to the Everglades with us or not? Julie wasn't sure what to make of this. She was sure they didn't want her to go with them based on the message she got in the morning. I'm not sure. Where are you? We're in the lobby waiting for you. You coming or not? I haven't had lunch yet. Julie was searching for words or an excuse. She didn't feel like being around anyone. She was determined to finish her written project, have her last supper, and get this whole thing over with. That's why we came back. We haven't eaten either. We rented an SUV and we figured we'd pick up something and eat on the way. It's kind of late already, so we decided we'd take our time and whenever we get back, we get back. That was a lot for even Rachel to get out in one breath. She paused, took a deep breath, and dove in again. We're showing our age, you know. We decided to just stay in tonight, so we'll eat here at the hotel restaurant for dinner whenever we get back. Again, she paused. This time, the pause was long and uncomfortable for Julie. She wasn't sure who was supposed to say something next. Well, Rachel asked finally. Well, what? Are you joining us? I'm about to gnaw on the strap of my purse. I'm so hungry. Give me 5 minutes. I'll be right down. Julie hung up the phone and anxiously tried to put herself together. The first thing she knew she wanted to do was to take care of her project. She saved her work again, just in case, closed the lid and slipped her laptop under the mattress. She ran into the bathroom and quickly ran a comb through her short bob. All that remained of her makeup was her mascara. She rapidly brushed it across her lashes, paying little attention to the tiny clumps she was leaving. I'll just throw some lipstick on in the elevator. Who the fuck cares anyway? She grabbed her purse and was almost on her way down the hall before she realized the room key was still sitting on the desk. Before her door closed completely, Julie was able to get back and get her foot back in the door. Ouch, shit. She pushed the door open all the way, limped in, and grabbed the key. It wasn't until she spun around to leave for the second time that she noticed the scrape on her big toe. Damn it, the door must have done that. She made a quick detour back to the bathroom to clean up the blood. It wasn't too bad. Nobody will notice. I better get my ass downstairs. She slipped the key to her room in her back pocket, threw her purse over her shoulder, and took a deep breath. This time, she was sure she had everything. Everything except a reason to be going. When the elevator doors opened, the posse was waiting. They seemed genuinely happy to see her, all 4 of them. She had forgotten to listen to that message a second time. Julie was starting to question why these girls ran so hot and cold. Or did they? Her plan for the afternoon was to play tour guide and nothing more. She was in no mood to make any lifelong friends. Funny, I guess they would be lifelong friends now, wouldn't they be? Hi, everyone. So, what's the agenda? Julie made every attempt to put on a good appearance. This was the way she seemed to always live her life. It never seemed to matter how she really felt inside. She wasn't permitted to let down her guard or show her emotions. She had to live up to the expectations of so many other people: her husband, her children, her employer, her parents, her temple cronies, the board at the club. She was so busy being so many things to so many other people, she never knew who of her many personalities was appropriate when she was forced into new social situations. She would today, like so many other times, go along with whatever anyone else wanted to do, even if she didn't want to, because she didn't like conflict and wouldn't stand up for herself, whoever that was at the time. We were thinking about stopping at Publix. They told us at the desk that Publix has really good hero sandwiches. Linda was taking over the planning aspect of the day's festivities. Is the Publix restaurant near here? Julie laughed out loud. No, not at all. Publix is a supermarket chain down here in the southeast, but they do have excellent subs. Normally, Julie would make a snide remark, but she didn't want to start off the day in the negative. I'll check with the desk where the closest store is. Not to worry, I already have it on the GPS. The van is in the driveway. We can just hit the road unless anyone wants to use the ladies' room. Julie wished she was as organized and as calm as Linda. Her heart was still thumping in her chest from gathering herself to meet them. She glanced down at her toe. The bleeding had stopped. The 5 women paraded through the empty lobby. It was a beautiful day, and everyone else was engaged in vacation activities, work, or conferences. These ladies were late getting started on their sojourn to the national park. They piled into the SUV. Rachel drove, and Linda served as navigator. Debbie and Beth flanked Julie, who was awkwardly perched in the middle of the back seat. After a stop at Publix, as brief as it could be with 5 middle-aged women trying to agree on any one thing, they got in the express line to pay and exit the store. Rachel couldn't decide what kind of sub to get. Linda had to ask 1,000 questions about the ingredients. Beth wanted to know if the salami was kosher, and Debbie kept wandering off, people watching. This is like having a matinee show with lunch. These people are just plain nuts. This was a mistake. I'm going to lose my shit and say something I don't mean to. Oh, fuck it. Who cares? Are we going Dutch for this? It'll take forever to check out if we do this all separately. Linda was watching the clock. It was 1:30 and they still had a drive ahead of them. One could almost see the wheels spinning as her mind was busy calculating time and distance for the commute, how long it would take to go through the park, time for the gift shop, and stops for the restroom. By the way, I heard about a produce place we can stop at on the way back that supposedly has killer milkshakes. One's made of all kinds of tropical flavors. It's supposed to be world famous. They even make a key lime shake. So put the desserts back, you piglets. That sounds good. I bet they have coconut and mango, too. Rachel was nearly drooling over the thought of a milkshake. She was the one that was always talking about her next meal while she was eating her current meal. This time, she hadn't even purchased it. She slid the package of Milano cookies behind her sandwich so nobody would see that she wasn't about to put her dessert back. What's the name of the place? Maybe we can stop there on the way into the park and have them to drink while we're there. Nope, according to this brochure, we'll come out of the park in Homestead, and the place is called Robert is Here. Kind of a weird name, but I've heard of it a couple of times, and apparently the guy Robert has been there for years. Debbie wandered back into the line as they were just finishing up. Everybody speaks all different languages here. It's like being at the United Nations. She put her sandwich, an apple, and a bottle of water on the belt. I heard Spanish, of course, but I also heard Russian, German, Hebrew, Portuguese, and I think Chinese. It was really cool. This place is a real melting pot of the world. Yes, everyone comes here for the weather in the winter. Julie finally volunteered something, innocuous as it was. She wasn't about to introduce anything controversial to the conversation, nor invite any kind of response or question. She was still feeling remorse for having left the quiet comfort of her hotel room. Her comment did elicit a quiet stare from her companions. Okay. Debbie took her change back from the cashier. Thank you. Come on, ladies. Once again, they were on the road. Linda had the GPS humming. Rachel had her sandwich open and resting on the console. Debbie, Beth, and Julie were spread out in the back of the SUV, eating and chatting. When the food was gone, Debbie collected the garbage and tossed it into the back seat of the van. Julie, confident that Linda and the GPS would get them to the park without a problem, slid down and rested her head on the individual headrest in her seat. She had just enough buzz left from her morning hit of vodka to help her doze off, and evidently she did so just in time. "Hail to Camp Wysocket," began Rachel. The camp songs rang out for the next hour as the SUV made its way west of Miami to Everglades National Park. They sang songs from Color War competition and from Songfest, and while they argued here and there over some of the lyrics, they passed time quickly while Julie slept. When they ran out of camp songs, they began reminiscing about counselors and socials, camping trips and field trips, concerts, and competitions. Before Julie awoke, Rachel was pulling into the driveway, past the ticket booth, and into the parking lot of Everglades National Park. Rachel jammed the SUV into park, jarring the vehicle. "Don't freak. I did that on purpose to wake up Sleeping Beauty." She turned around and started singing in her scratchy, invasive voice. "Good morning to you. Good morning to you. You look kind of sleepy. In fact, you look creepy. Is that any way to start off the day?" When Julie barely roused, the other three Wysocket camp girls chimed in and sang the second verse, changing the last line. "You look kind of drowsy. In fact, you look lousy." "Huh? What? Are we already here?" Julie stretched and pulled herself up on the headrest in front of her so she could sit up straight. She slipped her sunglasses up on her head and planted her palms firmly in her eye sockets and rubbed vigorously. "How long was I asleep?" "Over an hour. You missed the whole camp concert," laughed Beth. "Come on, let's get out. I need to stretch my legs." She unlocked the door and slid the arm of the SUV's back door open, yielding air-conditioned comfort to hot and sticky, humid tropical air. "Whew! Hey, we need sunblock, cold drinks, and fans, girls." It took a good 5 minutes for 5 women to put themselves together enough to even start toward the Welcome Center. Linda was pacing back and forth behind the van, watching the clock on her phone. "Come on, it's already after 3. You girls are impossible." "And you're a pain in my ass." Rachel was never good at speaking under her breath. Her natural tone was raucous and grating. She was inherently unable to whisper, so Linda could always hear her offensive comments. Rachel was always defending herself for speaking her mind, even if she didn't mean for anyone to hear her. Linda poked her head around the side of the van with a sarcastic smirk on her face. "Oops, did I say that out loud? Now come on, Lynn, you know I was just kidding." "It's getting to look like rain. We only have about an hour or so according to this weather map." Linda ignored the apology. She had heard so many of them after so many nasty remarks. This was Rachel. After so many years of friendship, she had become immune. They all loved each other so deeply that there wasn't much any of them could do to really hurt each other. The women strolled along the boardwalk, reading some of the signs and learning about the flora and fauna of the Everglades. They read about Florida panthers and white-tailed deer, manatees, and bottlenose dolphins. And they not only read about but came face to face with alligators. 4 pampered women who spent their entire lives in the northeast suburbs and the city were not accustomed to standing within 10 feet of a 7-foot alligator. "Is this safe? I mean, should we do something? Should we run back the way we came?" Debbie was in a state of panic. "I think your best bet is to maybe take a picture. There is a fence between us, just so you know." Julie was speaking almost in a monotone. "I'd be more concerned with what's on the other side of the path." The 4 novices spun around to find a congregation of alligators by a rock, 15 yards up a slight incline that did not have a retaining fence. "This is very common here. Just keep walking down the path. Don't scream, just walk." Julie began walking on ahead as if she was on a mission. Her 4 partners in crime followed suit, but hand in hand and on her heels, their anxiety visible. Only one of them was unable to stay silent as they ambled along the pathway, out of harm's way. "So how often are there alligator attacks here? Has anyone been eaten alive? Julie, aren't you the least bit scared of what might be around the next turn?" Frankly, I'm ready to go see that Robert guy for those milkshakes you promised me. Geez, girl, don't you know when to shut your pie hole? Beth wasn't usually outspoken, but she was at this moment noticeably shaken. All you're doing is making those creatures aware that we're here. Can you please be quiet? Sorry, but that's how I react to fear. We all have our ways, you know. Rachel was angry, but she begrudgingly complied. They walked silently for another 50 feet without stopping to read or look at any displays. Stopping on a footbridge that was arched over a marshy body of water, they stopped and released a collective sigh of relief. On the bridge, there were several small plaques and pictures telling the story of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, the American journalist, author, and conservationist who was a staunch defender of the Everglades. Oh, so that's why they named that school where that shooting was after her. She was some lady. Linda liked to read everything she could when she was at museums and parks. I didn't know they wanted to drain the swamp here, too, and then develop the land. She continued reading, going right down the line to the end of the bridge. So she wrote this book, River of Grass. I wonder if they sell it in the gift shop. You think? Debbie was getting hot and tired, so she too was getting short fused as well. Linda, do you think we could keep moving or are we still on schedule? Ouch, that sounded like you got burned. Rachel made a simple observation as she strolled by and down the ramp of the footbridge. Come on, Deb. I see a bench in some shade over there. We can wait there for Linda. Boy, these bitches sure do get testy. I wonder how they would treat each other if they weren't best friends. Still sorry I came. I'll make the best of it. I'm definitely doing a key lime milkshake, and I don't even care if it spoils my dinner. I may not even have dinner, so there. Julie joined Debbie and Rachel simply to get out of the sun. She pulled a warm bottle of water out of her purse, opened it, and poured some over her head. She motioned to the girls to see if they wanted some of the same. When they let her know it wasn't necessary, she put the bottle to her mouth and chugged the rest. Beth and Linda joined them 3 minutes later. Okay, we're ready. You guys good to go? Yup. Rachel popped up with the energy of a teenager, as if there had been no cross words or indignant facial expressions, no catty gossip or whispering behind backs. Debbie stood with the same demeanor, but less energy. Julie was astonished at how quickly these women forgot their anger, at how forgiving they were. They go from cutting each other to loving each other from one minute to the next. I never know what to expect. It's pretty confusing. Man, if a friend of mine called me a pain in the ass to my face, that would be it for her, at least for a week or two. Then right after that, Rachel basically called her stupid, too. Not sure I get these broads. You, Jules, you coming? Rachel called back to Julie, who had been lost in thought just long enough to fall behind her four traveling companions. She turned around and realized they were way up the boardwalk, about to take the turn for the home stretch. Coming, keep going, I'll catch up. The gift shop is down that last strip of boardwalk. Julie looked around for a recycling can. The park had banks of them for paper, plastic, and metal, right next to the trash cans all over the place. She started power walking down the path, figuring she'd eventually come across one. Her daughters had been unrelenting about recycling since they were tiny girls. Consequently, she had been brainwashed and now came by it naturally, especially in a national park. As she turned the corner on the boardwalk, she found the recycling center and dropped her plastic bottle. She then spent the next 3 minutes picking up bottles and cans that didn't quite make it in the receptacles. By the time she finished, she had lost sight of the women. Figuring they had found the air-conditioned gift shop, she broke into a trot down the last leg of the self-tour. As she opened the glass door to the gift shop, Julie was thinking to herself that it really hadn't been that bad an afternoon after all. She still had some questions about these women, but she wasn't too concerned. Those were fleeting thoughts, and the answers wouldn't matter to her tomorrow. The more time she spent with them, the more she understood that she had no idea how to relax and have fun, and that she didn't have any real friends with whom to do it. Rachel, Beth, and Debbie were already in line at the cashier, arms full of souvenirs. Linda was still browsing. The only thing on her arm to purchase was a copy of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas's book. She wasn't a big shopper, although she did enjoy looking around. Julie sat down on a small couch by the exit door, normally reserved for husbands, she thought, and waited. When the shopping excursion had come to an end, the women streamed out the door of the shop into the parking lot. Rachel's energy level again was high, but then she always seemed to get a boost when she anticipated eating something she was looking forward to, usually something sweet. As they walked to the car, Rachel confided in Linda that she had checked the GPS to be sure Robert is here was already loaded. Linda laughed out loud. Rachel, baby, you are too funny. When all five women were strapped in and the car was running and cooled off, Rachel put the car in reverse. She put the satellite radio on one of the soft rock stations. The first song that came on was Carole King's You've Got a Friend. Once again, the traveling choir sang. This time, even Julie found herself singing along. What the hell? I don't even know these people, yet I'm singing what used to be my favorite song with them. All I know about them is that they've known each other for years. They fight a lot, but they love each other a lot. I wish I had some friends like that, but I don't. Trying like hell to remember. 1971, was it? That album came out in the summer of 71. I was, what, 6? But the song is kind of timeless, I guess. I remember once when my old friend Mindy sang it to me in high school, but she was gay. Think she wanted me to be gay, too. That woman who worked in accounting at the station thought I was gay, too. Think it's because since they took me off air, I stopped wearing makeup. Maybe I do look a little less feminine now. That's not right. That's profiling again, isn't it? I wonder if that guy will be at the pool later or around the lobby. Maybe I'll see if I can get a little lucky later. Huh, what am I talking about? Hey, Julie, are you still with us? The radio had long since changed genre into hip hop, at which point Rachel turned the volume down. You're like a million miles away. I was just thinking, I'm sorry. Do you know a better way to get back to the hotel? The traffic is horrendous and people drive like nuts around here. Rachel jammed her foot on the brakes as a black sports car suddenly cut in front of her. Jeez. It's rush hour, and this area is getting more and more crowded as each day goes by. A lot of people drive like maniacs, very selfish, very dangerous. Julie wasn't sure if she knew a better way. She thought about it for a minute. From Turnpike, you can either take 836 over to I-95 or take 874 up. I'm thinking stay on the Turnpike up to 836. It'll likely be faster, although it will probably have worse drivers. Rachel forced her foot back on the gas pedal and swerved out to the right from behind the little black car. Reaching down with her left hand, she thrust her finger on the button, impatiently waiting for the window to come down. You son of a bitch! Where'd you get your license? Online? Bet you have a primate membership too, asshole. Rachel, damn it! Beth lunged forward, grabbing the headrest of the driver's seat. Stop it! You're gonna get us killed! Beth, Julie had thought, was the quiet one, but not this time. I've heard terrible things about road rage and drive-by shootings in this city. You never know who has a gun or when they're gonna blow. Please roll up your window and back off. Rachel had always been an aggressive driver. In an environment where she was intimidated, there was no telling what she might do. Her friends knew this about her. They've had to bail her out of several uncomfortable situations, once literally. Her mouth did not go over well with the state trooper outside Las Vegas 4 years ago. Beth had always been the voice of reason, but even she couldn't talk the officer out of the ticket. Rachel had been overly contentious, and the result was a 4-hour stay at a small-town jailhouse, $400 bail, and an apology begrudgingly made to the judge and the arresting officer by an extremely disagreeable Rachel. Oh, all right. Rachel eased her foot up on the gas pedal. The black sports car forged forward and eventually cut in front of yet another SUV. Wouldn't want a repeat of Vegas or New Orleans, for that matter. Julie was almost afraid to say anything. She sounded a little sarcastic, so I wonder if asking her will make it worse or break the tension. Julie took a deep breath and asked, What happened in New Orleans? There was a short silence as the three women who weren't watching the road glanced back and forth among each other. Well, began Linda, it was the summer of 2005. We happened to have yet another lucky pick for our location and timing because we were staying in the French Quarter right when Hurricane Katrina hit. There was a collective groan from the other members of the girls' getaway group. We had no idea what we were facing nor what to do. We had been planning on going down there for Mardi Gras that spring, but something came up which I won't go into, so we postponed and went in August. Linda fidgeted around in her seat. She seemed to be in a permanent pause, so Debbie picked up the story. It was Rachel's idea to act as if we were celebrating Mardi Gras. She had even brought a bunch of props with her, I guess you could call them. She had masks and beads and the fixings for Mardi Gras cocktails we could mix in the rooms. She even made a few signs that said things like, "So we're a little late to the party. Happy Mardi Gras," or "Better late than never. I'll show you mine if you got some beads." They all started to giggle, remembering the planning and the trip. Rachel likes to party, in case you hadn't noticed. I'm figuring that out. Julie was intrigued. Part of her liked hearing the story, but the fearful side of her was worried that Rachel might misbehave while she was tagging along and get her in trouble. It was Beth's turn. So we weren't really paying attention to the weather reports. We were doing a lot of drinking and shopping and sightseeing. The second night we were in town, we were planning on dinner on Bourbon Street, but we got a little shit-faced in the room and all those rum drinks. Rachel hung the signs out over the balcony and made us all put on the masks. Before we'd even gotten out there, the whistles and catcalling had started. We stood out on the balcony, and without batting an eye, Rachel took off her shirt, lifted up her bra, and then paraded around the balcony, bouncing her boobs, smacking them together, and howling. Rachel chimed in. I promptly tossed my cookies over the side rail from our third-floor room, and that's when the trouble began. What happened? Julie was on the edge of her seat. It sounded as though they were having a great time. Rachel was never the best athlete, you have to know. Linda started to laugh. She couldn't hit the broad side of a building with a volleyball from 10 feet. But that night, with her puke, she hit the head of a New Orleans cop. Oh, geez, I hope he was wearing a hat. Julie was laughing out loud for the first time in a long time. Linda continued. He was not. She swallowed hard. That didn't stop him from looking straight up at us. Unfortunately for Rachel, she was still kind of hanging over the rail, and she was still half naked. The tenor in the car got serious. The police officer didn't find this funny because he was knocking on our hotel room within 2 minutes. Oh my God, what happened? Did you get in trouble? Girl, you sound like a frickin' schoolgirl, Rachel exclaimed. Of course we got in trouble. Everyone laughed. The voice of reason, Beth, resumed the story. It was a long time ago, but if memory serves me, he was angrier about the fact that we weren't preparing for the hurricane than he was about how rowdy we were behaving. Between you and me, I think he didn't mind getting a close-up view of Rachel's boobs. He was pretty long in the tooth, so I'm guessing a pair of nubile firm titties was a welcome sight. He was more tough on us about not heeding the warnings about the storm, though. We had to sober up PDQ. Linda was checking her GPS to see how much longer until they reached the hotel. Traffic had opened up and it was starting to get dark. We went down to the corner Quick Mart and bought some drinks and snacks. We got some cheese sticks and granola bars and stuff that would sustain us for a day or two in case the hotel lost power. We had been running around for 2 days, paying no attention to the news, so we had no earthly idea what to expect. It never dawned on us to try to leave town. Yeah, that cop did like looking at me, but he smelled like rum and puke. Rachel was focused on her driving and had dropped out of the conversation when they started talking about the hurricane. She enjoyed how that old cop had made her feel, and she was lost in it. We did sense that the locals were a little on edge. Beth was good at reading people. Even the waitress we had for dinner the night before seemed a little testy, but then they all are testy with us. We're always such a pain in the neck when we're together. We have to be. We only get to spend these few days together once a year, complained Debbie. So much to talk about in so little time. It's almost impossible to fit it all in. I don't think we're rude or anything. Maybe we are, maybe not, but maybe we should be better tippers at least. Linda, who didn't want to be bothered with the math, was always appalled at how cheap her friends were when it came to tipping, but she never liked to make a scene at the restaurants. She left that to Rachel. She did, however, take every opportunity to mention it when they were out and about. We got the not-so-subtle message, Lynn. Rachel had returned to present conversation. Anyone else getting hungry? Linda, how far out are we? Should we call ahead for a reservation, or do you think they'll have a table? I mean, it's not a weekend or anything. It's already almost 7, and I don't know about any of you, but I need to run upstairs to freshen up before we eat anyway. Shut up already. Linda was tired, and once again, her patience was thin. Let me at least answer one of your questions. God, girl, you are rapid firing again. Not nice. You have diarrhea of the mouth again. I had to do something to interrupt you. Sorry. Linda condescended to apologize. They were all generally used to Rachel's occasional outbursts of motor mouth questions. We're about 20 minutes out. We should be there about 7 or 7:15, depending on traffic. Jules, is this rush hour? It's getting close to the end of the worst of it. Shouldn't be too bad from here on in. The turnoff isn't far from here. So, should we call for a reservation for like 8? Rachel, when she was hungry, was more than focused. She was fixated. I don't think that'll be necessary. Linda, the planner, was back to calculating and figuring. It's a weeknight, and we probably won't be sitting down until close to 9, so they probably won't be that busy. Just asking. Rachel drove on in silence. In fact, they were all quiet. It had been a long day and a hot one. Julie sat back in her seat. I still don't know much about any of these women. They are all kind of quirky. I never know when they're serious. And they sure do snap each other's heads off a lot. And they can be really hurtful. Maybe it's a good thing I don't have friends like this. I'd probably be in tears half the time. Maybe not. Maybe it's better than being alone with myself all the time. I mean, look at me. I'm a mess. The only reason I met these particular women is because I'm at this particular hotel, intending to throw myself off the ledge and plummet to my death to end my miserable life. Oh, and to find out if your life passes before your eyes just before you die. God, I'm such a dimwit sometimes. That's only in the movies, or books or something. Wait, where's my purse? Oh, there it is. Julie, why did your heart skip a beat? If you lost your purse today, what would be the difference? Charge dinner to the room, which would be covered, and you won't be here tomorrow. Shit. Julie's stream of consciousness was interrupted by a rumble in her ear. Debbie had fallen into a deep sleep and had started to snore. Her head had slid over and was resting on Julie's right shoulder, making her extremely uncomfortable. Get the fuck off me. Jeez, this is just what I need. Julie decided to cough to try to rouse her, but it didn't work. She shifted forward as if to try to see where they were. Oh, look, we're close to our exit. Good, I'm about to start nibbling on the steering wheel. Rachel's voice was the answer. When you're sound asleep, the penetrating quality of this was worse than the sound of the squeal of tires directly behind you when you've brought your car to a sudden stop. Debbie opened her eyes and slowly picked up her head. Are we there yet? Yeah, get out. Rachel was getting snarky. What are you, 4? Snarky again. Sorry, I'm tired and hungry. 5 more minutes, and I'm glad we decided to keep the van a couple of days because there was no way we could have returned it and then taken an Uber back here without me biting someone's head off. Does this woman ever have just one thought? Can she ever just have one question and be happy with that? I've never met anyone so hyper before, except maybe me. It's almost like she says things out loud, the same way I think things. I wonder if I said things out loud and got them off my chest, I'd feel a little better. Nobody wants to hear this shit I think about, least of all Morty. I wonder how he's doing. I wonder if he's still looking for me. What's it been now, 4 days? No, 5. No, it's 4. It was yesterday I saw the news coverage. Or was it just today? My brain hurts. Does anyone have any mints with them? I feel like a herd of elephants stomped through my mouth with onions on their feet. Debbie was not the best at expressing herself. She was very bright intellectually, but wasn't too street smart and not quick on the uptake with sarcasm or irony. Onions on their feet? Debbie, just say you had onions on your sandwich and you could use a mint. No need to try to be creative. Beth was also being snarky. They were all pushing each other's buttons. Rachel pulled the SUV up to the valet in front of the hotel before anybody did bodily harm to anyone. They all stumbled out of the car, seemingly drunk. They were merely exhausted, hungry, and emotionally spent. Rachel gave the keys to the valet. She also handed him a 20. Can you do me a favor? Is there any way you can run a vacuum through here? We were a little messy today. Will this take care of it? Yes, ma'am, surely. The valet captain took the keys and tipped his cap. Rachel turned on her heels and followed the rest of the women into the lobby and directly to the elevator bank. None of them made note of anyone or anything about the lobby this time. See you all downstairs at 8:15? Linda caught the elevator door before it closed on her floor. This was her calling. She was the organizer. She waited for an answer. Okay, sure. 8:15 it is. Beth looked at her watch. They had just short of half an hour to unwind and refresh makeup and hair. Julie was alone on the elevator when it reached her floor. I guess I'm going to dinner with them too. She walked off the elevator and shuffled down the hall to her room. She took a deep breath as she slid her key in the door. I don't know if I have the energy to act like nothing is wrong for another evening. I guess I don't have a choice.